This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. The Tasmanian Liberal Party is recording a massive surge in support just days out from the state election. New independent polling has the Liberals leading the Labor Party by 12%, described as a record 3-month swing. We cross live now to our state political reporter, Jacqueline Robson. Good evening, Jack. You've been covering this campaign since day one. Has this swing towards the Liberal Party come as a surprise?
Well, Joe, it's been hard to gauge how the public is taking the campaign. This is only the second independent poll we've seen over the 6 weeks, and the first was on the weekend. It's certainly a surprise to see such a large spike, and it will be somewhat of a confidence boost for the Liberals, but the figures only suggest a slim majority, so it's far from a done deal. Interestingly, the Greens took a massive hit. That will put at risk at least 2 seats for the party. Now, Labor isn't taking today's poll as a loss, but it'll need to be a miracle result on Saturday to land a majority.
In the frantic final week of campaigning, pressure is now mounting on the Labor Party, with new polling revealing a flat line in support. Today's EMRS survey showing support for the Liberal Party has spiked significantly since the last poll in December, which had the two parties neck and neck at 34%.
From one poll to the next, we've never seen a change of 12 percentage points for any party, let alone the government as they near an election.
The Liberals now lead the Labor Party 46% to 34%. Experts say it's a shift likely sparked by the threat of a hung parliament.
A number of Tasmanian voters find majority government to be an important issue and will swing backwards and forwards from one party to try to avoid a hung parliament.
An issue the business sector is rallying to avoid. 12 peak industry bodies today urging Tasmanians to put their vote behind the major parties.
When you can't articulate a single coherent message about Tasmania's future, then that creates a problem not only in the electorate, but it creates a problem in the business community.
On the new figures, a hung parliament would be offering a very small crossbench. The Jackie Lambie network is unlikely to garner enough support for a single seat. Today, Interstate publicising her new book with just days to go.
So what are you going to do?
Well, look, I've obviously got the book that will run for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I've had candidates down there in Tasmania that I've walked alongside with.
While the Greens vote has plummeted to an historic low.
I think what we're really seeing is that some Greens voters are moving to Labor and some people who may have been intending to vote Labor are moving to the Liberals.
This is what millions and millions of dollars from vested interests buys. We're seeing an extraordinary jump in the Liberals' polling since Christmas time.
Whether Labor's poker machine policy is driving the result is unclear, but it's not deterring the party from claiming an ability to form a majority on Saturday, even if it requires a miraculous swing.
We know we can win these elections talking to people. We saw in 2016 the polls never predicted that Labor would win 4 of the 5 seats at that federal campaign, but we did.
What I'm going to do is not engage in hypotheticals, in focus on the reality that is the Liberal Party being the one and only party that can form majority government.
But the Premier is yet to reveal his next option if that scenario doesn't play out.
I plan to stay on as Premier in a majority Liberal government. That's what we're campaigning for.
Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
In the wake of the latest polling, both major parties are making a last-ditch effort to win voters. The Liberals spending today on the East Coast, promising more money for roads and infrastructure, while Labor revealed its agriculture policy.
Helping farmers get more produce from paddock to plate.
We need to make sure that we protect the reputation Tasmania has as a producer of clean, disease-free produce.
Labor revealing it will boost the agricultural sector by $45 million if it wins Saturday's election. Of that, $500,000 would go towards better product branding and marketing. $30 million would go towards irrigation schemes, and $2.5 million would be spent developing a plan to build an agriculture research and education centre of excellence on the northwest coast.
We'd like to see Tasmanian farmers be the most profitable in the country and have their profitability growing at a faster rate than the rest of the country.
At the moment, I think we haven't probably capitalised enough on our agri-tourism potential. Like if you look at the tourists and when they're coming in Tasmania, we need to actually drive more drive them more out into these regional areas.
But Labor's agriculture funding falls well short of the $150 million boost promised by the Liberals.
I think that figure is massively inflated.
We identified our agricultural sector as one of the foundations of Tasmania's strong economy, and we will invest a lot more into supporting it into the future.
Investing more into the state's East Coast roads also on the agenda if the Liberals win majority.
Roads matter to tourists and they matter to the locals.
The party promising to widen the access road to Bennelong Bay and also improve phone coverage in the area.
Our vision is for more people to come, to stay longer, to see more of our state, especially regional areas, and to spend more while they're here.
We've announced a $50 million tourism attraction package which invests in public infrastructure that supports visitation right across the state.
Monica Dadson at Southern Cross News.
Initial investigations into the death of 16 polo ponies revealed the tragedy was an isolated incident and that the movement of horses across Bass Strait is safe to continue. The ponies were found dead in their transport truck on the mainland soon after they travelled on the Spirit of Tasmania late last month. The animals had competed at the Barnbougle Polo 1 week earlier. The Department of Primary Industries, Parks, Water and Environment says a clear cause of the deaths is still being determined and investigations are continuing. The department also says it's unable to comment on whether charges will or will not be laid in relation to the incident. Tasmania's volunteer sector wants a bigger slice of the pie, holding a stunt on Parliament lawns today with the people dressed in pink representing the portion of volunteers in Tasmania's emergency services sector.
Well, across all of the sectors in Tasmania, whether it be emergency services or any others, we are certainly hearing of issues of challenges, in some cases decline in the numbers of volunteers who are available, particularly in our regional areas.
Volunteering Tasmania says their contribution is worth almost $5 billion every year. Virtual currencies like Bitcoin may still seem confusing to some Tasmanians, but local businesses are warming to the new payment system. Dozens of retailers across the state now accept virtual currencies, with interest taking off in the past 12 months, according to a leading analysis.
Launceston's Maple Cafe is the latest business jumping on the Bitcoin bandwagon. Owner Tom Allison recently introduced the payment option as a point of difference.
Hopefully it encourages some more customers to come through.
He says it's been popular with overseas tourists who are using virtual currencies to avoid conversion fees.
Last January has been pretty busy with the number of tourists and stuff as well, so there's probably a bit of a market there hopefully that we can tap into.
The take-up of digital money is being noted by Alex Saunders. His videos analysing virtual currency have been viewed more than 1 million times.
I've been in it for a few years and it's probably the last 12 months where it's really started to take off.
He says there is still a lot of confusion in the general public over how virtual currencies work, but the potential to attract more customers is encouraging Tasmanian stores to learn.
They'll see the cafe next to them accept Bitcoin, they'll see customers going there, and that's the sort of point where we are now, where people are going, oh, I don't want to miss out.
Sports outlets and bars are among those signing on to the new payment system in the state over the past year. But for those looking to invest in the virtual world, a word of caution.
Do your due diligence before you just get excited and throw your money at something you don't quite understand.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
The health of the River Derwent is in the spotlight as teams of volunteers take to its shores on a clean-up mission. Sickening piles of rubbish have gathered in Prince of Wales Bay, highlighting where our litter ends up.
This is Tasmania's legacy of litter, piles of rubbish washing up on the shores of the River Derwent.
So today, as part of the Business Clean Up Australia Day project, we're down here at Prince of Wales Bay, just tidying up the area. It only looks like a small area, but the amount of rubbish that we're pulling out is pretty significant.
Teams of volunteers gathering bags of rubbish today, scouring the waterline at Prince of Wales Bay, where rubbish frequently builds up.
It is a shocking amount of litter. Some areas it's almost knee-deep in plastic bottles, lots of soda straw wrappers and bottle tops and cans and a whole range of things. And probably 90% I would say is plastics.
The Derwent Estuary program says historically poor water quality and contamination is improving in the Derwent, but the litter problem is persisting and impacting on wildlife.
Fish and birds and marine animals, turtles for example, will ingest plastics, and that will basically ruin their digestive system such that they can't eat food and they starve to death. So it is a serious issue.
People who live in Hobart should be aware that things that they drop in the streets or in the gutter will eventually find their way into the Derwent River. So it's been a real eye-opener for me.
But today's volunteer effort is just the beginning, with dozens of other community clean-up events popping up across the state over coming days. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
And closer to home, shoppers have steered clear of a slithering snake in a Launceston car park. The reptile was spotted making its way across the asphalt before hiding under a car. A specialist snake catcher was called in to make sure it was safely removed. Now let's take a look at business and finance with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. Australian shares have closed higher for a fifth straight session due to positive offshore leads and a strong run for healthcare and bank stocks. The ASX 200 index has risen by 14.7 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 78.47 US cents and 63.66 euro cents. Tom Cooper joins us now with the day's sport news. Tom, promising signs for Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. The Aussie F1 ace is clocking up some fast times in pre-season. Also coming up, local sports gets political as the major parties open their checkbooks. North Melbourne have wrapped up the last of their community engagements in the state, with students filling North Hobart Oval this morning for a kick around with several of the Kangaroos stars.
Always good to get home, and we love coming out and doing clinics like this with kids, and I think they get a lot out of it too.
The North West Coast product also weighing in on the health of the game here in the state after Burnie and Devonport were forced to fold from the TSL due to lack of player numbers.
There's a lot of questions that quite rightly Tasmanians are asking, and you know, hopefully North Melbourne can be a part of you know, remedying the issues that we've got down here.
The Roos fly back to Melbourne tonight. After being labelled as having the worst basketball facilities of any capital city in the country, Hobart could see a new multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art one built here in the next few years, and it's not just basketball set to benefit. It's the announcement the sport has been crying out for, a state government pledge of $10 million to bring Tasmanian basketball out of the dark ages.
We have about 5,000 participants each day in the Greater Hobart area participating in sport, and obviously we want to support healthy and active communities.
Touted as a next-generation indoor multi-sports facility, the likely location is on the site of the Derwent Entertainment Centre, starting with a state-of-the-art forecourt model and a potential second show court arena.
And we'll be able to host international matches like Chinese Taipei versus Australian Boomers last week in Melbourne. We'll be able to have those matches in Hobart.
Gymnastics and Netball Tasmania throwing their support behind the concept, with participation in their sports also on the rise.
Facilities like this, we're anticipating we could put an additional 1,000 members a week going through this facility.
Any new facilities that support participation growth in netball is a real positive for us.
Meantime, the Launceston Tornadoes are set to welcome a familiar face back into the fray, with American import Michaela Roof signing on for the upcoming Siebel season, having spent last year with the Hobart Chargers.
And the opportunity became available once she was in Europe and looking for her opportunities in this season, and we wanted to grab that opportunity. She's a dynamic part of our program. She has great leadership and she's great for our younger people to be around.
It's a crucial signing for the Tawns, with Taylor Roberts shifting to Dandenong and star guard Lauren Mansfield yet to decide whether she'll return to Launceston.
Look, we've always got our fingers crossed for the best people to be a part of our club, and hopefully we'll be making an announcement soon.
The Siebel season begins in early April. And with funding for sports in the spotlight, Labor has made its own pledge today, offering up $800,000 to resurface the #1 ground at the NTCA facility.
The Hussey report identified that the NTCA was one of those grounds that needed the work, but also it allows us to look at training matches for BBL and games for WBBL right here in Launceston.
If you can have a facility ready to go, it makes it much easier for Cricket Australia to support. The Big Bash is growing and expanding.
Labor says it will reveal more on its overall $20 million sports funding package in the coming days. Still on cricket, and the Tasmanian Tigers have managed to salvage a draw in their Sheffield Shield clash with New South Wales. Chasing 449, the Tigers started the final day of play 2 for 240. Jake Doran falling just 3 runs shy of his ton before Bo Webster's impressive innings came to an end on 136. Ben McDermott notching up his 4th first-class 50 as Matthew Wade brought up his 11th first-class century with a 6. The pair hanging in there with the Tigers 4 for 489 at the end of play. They now sit 3rd on the Shield ladder with 2 games remaining.
All right, thanks so much for that. The weather is coming up right after the break with the man of the moment, Peter Murphy.
Good evening. Hobart 26 degrees, Launceston reached 24, Burnie 21 and Devonport 22. 29 was the high on King Island as temperatures hovered above average on a humid sort of day. Campania and Strawn 26. Flinders Island, Friendly Beaches and Grove all 24. St Helens 22. Low Head and Wynyard 21 degrees. Lyawini with our low of 1. Low cloud extends from a low to the south of Western Australia through to the southwest of Tasmania. Most of the mainland is fairly cloud-free apart from scattered cumulus over the coastal areas. Broken low cloud over the east and north of Tasmania today with high-level cloud moving over the west and south this afternoon. Tomorrow, the ridge over Tasmania weakens with a front moving through from the west. Troughs remain the dominant feature over the mainland. The winds northeast to northwesterly over northern waters to 25 to 35 knots. They'll all shift about like the hands on a clock as the change moves through and 10 more southwesterly later in the day. A gale warning has been issued for waters between Sandy Cape and St Helens Point and a strong wind warning for remaining coastal waters apart from the southeast. For Hobart tomorrow, showers developing 23 degrees, 24 the top for Geeveston, possible storm for Bothwell and 24. Great temperature for the Launceston Cup, 25 degrees. Devonport showers and 22, 25 for Cressy with showers and a possible storm. Wear a poncho or get something to keep you out of the rain. Burnie, a possible storm and 22, 23 for Strawn, same sort of forecast, a windy day for Curry and 22. For St Helens, showers developing, 24 the high, 24 also for Swansea and Orford with a possible storm thrown into the mix. There's the UV ranging from high at 7 to very high. On Thursday, showers over the west and south, contracting to the southwest but fine elsewhere. The chance of a shower over the southwest coast and the northeast on Friday, fine for the rest of the state. And on Saturday, partly cloudy before a shower over the west and south. Sunny weather for Perth and Adelaide tomorrow, along with Canberra and Sydney. A cool change developing over Melbourne and showers and a possible storm for Darwin. It's partly cloudy and 25 in Hobart, a bit warmer than it was during the day. Partly cloudy and 21 in Launceston, partly cloudy in Devonport, currently 19 degrees. Launceston Cup tomorrow, Joe. It's not run until after 6 o'clock, so you'll be reading the news. But before you do, have a little interest in number 6, Fastnet Dragon. Don't tell anybody else between you and me, OK? Shh.
Thanks for the hot tip. All right, before we leave you tonight, a tiny wallaby joey has been given a second chance at life after it was pulled from the pouch of its deceased mum in Tinderbox. The little one was just a few weeks old and appeared to be in good health. Rescue volunteers say it's an example of the importance of checking pouches of marsupials involved in accidents. And that's all from the team for now. We'll see you a bit later with updates. Thanks for your company. Bye-bye.